Basically, my question, yeah, so I kind of have two questions, but we'll see how it goes. So the first one is basically to do with the idea of like yeah, logical contradiction, right? So is it that like do we as Muslims basically believe that if something's a logical contradiction in this realm, in this world, it will be a logical contradiction everywhere. Like, yani, nothing can be and not be at the same time. That's everywhere. That's just you can just say yes or no, and I'll add to that.
Um, Now it depends on how you define a logical contradiction. If you're talking about textbook logical definitions, then yes, this is the case. Because a thing is defined as, by definition, that which can conceivably exist. So, for example, a square triangle there's no possible world in which a squared triangle or triangle squared can never exist. It cannot exist because of its
It's not a
impossibility.
thing.
Yeah, it's not a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then on that, then couldn't someone argue? Like for example, let's say on the Qadr debate kind of thing, right? If we respond to the Qadr debate and we say, okay, look, this is from God's attributes, yeah, He predestines and He gives us free will, and since it's in God's realm, we can't understand it, but it's not for us to, pick and choose what's He has to tell us. So if He tells us it's true, but then couldn't you someone argue, okay, but even if God's in some other realm the Qadr, predestination and free will, that's an open kind of contradiction. So it's a logical contradiction. So it can't be possible in any possible world.
Yeah, I don't think that can be argued like that. The reason why, first of all, if that was so simple, then there would not be this huge school of thought called the compatibilists, first of all, right? Because the compatibilists, which range from Thomas Hobbes and go all the way to John Stuart Mill, and all of those in between. And I think if you do probably a philosophy count in the secular world of compatibilists, it's probably the largest school of thought of the three: libertarian, compatibilist, and determinist.
But do they believe, like, sorry, just quickly, in terms of compatibilists, I know they may believe, what's it called, that everything, can be known beforehand, but do they believe that everything is literally decreed and also you can have that choice to do that?
Well, the way that they would frame it, they wouldn't use the word decreed. They would just say that there is an uninterrupted causal chain of events which renders everything that happens as necessarily happening because of that chain. So in other words, everything that I'm saying right now, everything that I'm doing is happening because of this uninterrupted chain of causal events. Atheists believe in this, by the way. Like Sam Harris has a book on it. So this is what they say. So everything I'm saying, in fact, everything I'm thinking, not just about everything I'm saying, is as a result of the uninterrupted causal. Like something happened before this, and something happened before that, and something happened before that. And these dominoes cause me to do and say what is happening right now and what I'm saying right now. The problem that these people face is intuition. Okay, the immediate knowledge of me having the first person experience, which is undeniable to me, which is that I have volition. Okay, now for anyone to deny that I have that is tantamount to almost denying one's existence. It's impossible for one to falsify that, and epistemologically, you could argue even more powerful. Some have argued more powerful than the demonstrative method. You could argue these things. So you have these two things which on their world view are almost impossible to refute. Number one is the uninterrupted causal line of things that have happened before what I'm saying now has happened. And number two, the immediate knowledge that I have of volition. And these two things have to somehow exist together. The mechanism of them existing together is unknown. But then to say that it's a contradiction is equivalent to going to quantum physics and saying, well, we don't understand how two particles can be in one place at the same time, and therefore it's a contradiction. It's a contradiction because we're using different paradigms for different things. In this case, we are talking about something which we don't actually have knowledge of the mechanism of. So we're saying that it has to be the case. 1 and 2 have to be the case, but how? The howness is, to be honest with you, no compatibilist within any school of thought that I've seen have given me a really robust definition of how the two things can happen at the same time. So I would say that just because we have to suspend judgment on the howness of how these two things happen at the same time, it doesn't mean to say now that the two things are not happening at the same time. And so the fact that you can demonstrate both of those things, free will and determinism, okay, is not an evidence against either of them, number one. And number two, the fact that we can't explain mechanisms of their equal existence or coexistence or symbiotic existence is not an evidence that such symbiotic existence is not happening. So if you wanted to mechanically write down how is this happening, basically, the kayfiyya, the how, the honest truth is no one knows how. But if we would be in a problem if we couldn't demonstrate either of the two things. Like if we couldn't demonstrate the fact that there is an uninterrupted causal line, which we believe comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they believe there's an infinite regress or whatever they want to say, or we couldn't demonstrate that we have volition, okay, then we'd have some problems. But we can demonstrate both of those things, but not how they symbiotically, mechanically interact with one another. And this is the mystery of that's why. So to call it a contradiction because you don't know how it interacts with it, it's almost equivalent to calling something of quantum physics contradiction.